Hey everyone, and welcome back to You're Still Doing That, The Rethink, the podcast proudly listened to by tens of people from all over the globe. And hey, happy Mother's Day! Happy Mother's Day, Mom. There would be no podcast without you, literally. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for our family. We are truly blessed by your love and compassion. And here's what's coming up today on episode 6, the Miller Update, and part 2 of my conversation with the legendary Alan Katz, co-writer and producers of Tales from the Crypt. Some stats from last week. Alan's part 1 episode brought in 10 downloads so far, and since the launch of season 3, we've hit a total of 139 downloads. And yes, we still have our one loyal German listener, Danke schön. I'd generally love to hear from you. You've been with us every episode this season, so reach out. I'll give you a shout out, or better yet, join me live on the show. That goes for anyone else too. If you're passionate about what you do and you want to share it, let's talk. Let's make it happen. All right, folks, let's get into the podcast. And for the Miller Update, as for me, I've had a full work week at school this week. We are wrapping things up. We've only got 2 weeks of school left. Man, I can't tell you how much everybody's ready for summer break, man. This past week for me, 4th and 5th grade students, they're using a Google-based web tool called a music-based, sorry, I get my English correct here. They're using a Google-based web tool for music writing. It's called Chrome Music Lab. It's designed for them to use on their Chromebooks, but you can use it on any device. I use the songwriting tool to teach chord progressions and music writing, focusing on getting students to use patterns to write songs. There's lots of other neat tools on the Music Lab as well, but I generally focus on the music writing part. Let's see. 3rd grade is doing recorders this week. Everybody's fun. They're wrapping those up. 1st and 2nd grade have been identifying forms in music, and kindergarten has a concert in 10 days, so they've been in full rehearsal mode. Let's see, this past week I got to see the original 1977 theatrical release of Star Wars at my local movie theater, Spring Lane Cinemas. Shout out to Jared, the manager there, for finding digital prints from the original film strips. I didn't know that was a thing, but there's a big industry for people to snatch up, or people that take the original print from the 35 millimeter and they digitize it for folks to show. Spring Lane Cinemas is going to show Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi over the next 2 Wednesdays for their Way Back Wednesdays film series. These movies on Wednesdays, these old school movies, they're free. You just got to buy a concession when you go in. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to cut a good chunk of your bill off if you go to the movie. So check out Jared over at Spring Lane Cinemas for Way Back Wednesdays. Buy some concessions. If it's for a movie super popular like Star Wars, you are going to want to get there early. The movie starts at 7, and let's see, last Wednesday I got there about 6:15, and it was already at about probably 80% capacity at 45 minutes ahead of time. So, and it filled up all the way to the brim. People were sitting on the first rows, where your head is, your head's all crooked up looking at the screen. So do get there early for things that were super popular like Star Wars. Sophie is getting to start her internship this upcoming week, her unpaid internship. She's not happy about the unpaid part, but it was all she could find, and this was the summer for her to knock out an internship. She'll be working at the Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge. The refuge is a sanctuary for abused farm animals. They get to live out their days with space to roam and top-notch care. Sophie's going to be working, I think she's got to work 200 hours over the summer I believe her schedule is 4 days a week, 4 hours at a time. She'll be cleaning animal stalls and feeding animals, and who else knows what they're going to have her do while she's there. But I'm sure she's going to gain a lot of knowledge and probably learn a lot about probably the farming industry and sustainability. The Piedmont Animal Farm Refuge is nonprofit. They've got 45 acres of land to house abused farm animals. Let's see, they've got chickens, goats, turkeys, sheep, ducks, some cows. They are hoping to home some pigs as well, but they are a nonprofit, so they kind of make space and build space as money is available. But they do good work there. They also promote a vegan lifestyle. So they have a lot of workshops with the community. People can come in and learn how to transition to being a vegan. They can learn how to raise animals that are cruelty-free, and how we can live together with not necessarily having to slaughter the animals to sustain our lives, but to live with them as well, so that we both can have happy days. So that'll be a good internship for Sophie. Ollie is still working all the time at the Golden Corral. Go and see her. I'm sure she would love some people to pop in and wave to her. Ollie graduates on Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, from CCCC, and she will officially have the paperwork, and she will be a graduate from Central Carolina Community College. So everyone wish Ollie a happy graduation. She is headed to Western Carolina in the fall. Owen this week was able to see the amazing Miss Allison Banks Garcia to get a fresh haircut. Shout out to Allison. If you need any wonderful hair work, she is great. Chrissy, a big happy Mother's Day to my amazing wife. The family loves you. I love you. Thank you for your dedication and endless support in all this family does. We love you so much, baby. And I think that wraps up the Miller update this week. So let's get into part 2 with my interview with Alan Katz, writer and producer for Tales from the Crypt, and a host of other movies and TV shows. Thank you to everyone that listened to part 1. Here is part 2 with Alan Katz.
Fourth season, it's become more about the nuts and bolts of the craft of movie making, what happens when the craft turns to crap. But the first season was all about the making of Bordello of Blood, and Entertainment Weekly called it the best film podcast of 2022.
Nice.
And
well, that's gotta feel good.
That felt incredibly good. I took that very much to heart. And I found podcasting was very, very appealing. Well, a friend from school, let's call him Hal, approached me with a story that he wanted to turn into a movie or a TV series about something that had happened to him.
Yeah.
Now, the process of turning anything into a movie or a TV series is years just to write the script. If you're turning it into a movie, years, it's so hard, such a long shot, especially with a story like his. A TV series, oh my God, okay, years to write that first episode, and then you got to write a Bible. So that's another 50 or 60 pages of content, everything that happens after that first episode, all the characters that are going to populate the world. Seasons, 5 seasons, justify an audience's relationship with this piece. That's just to get it in the door. But that won't get them to read it. You have to induce them. You have to create a pitch deck, which is a comic book form of the story and the concept. And that's just to get them to fucking read it. The executives just to read the script. Now, let's say they say yes. Now you're just at the opening of the meat grinder. And there's a whole other horrible process that it's going to go through. And throughout this whole process, there are thousands of assholes standing in your way. And at any one time, any one of those assholes can kill your project dead, just because they're an asshole.
Yeah.
Now, to take an idea from my head and turn it into a podcast, by contrast, there's only one asshole in the way, and it's me.
That's right.
And so long as this asshole is willing to do the work and get it out to an audience, and find an audience and help the audience find it, well, then I can tell the story however I want to tell it, and there's no one giving me dumbass notes just to justify their own stupid existence. Hey, the other thing about a podcast is we own everything.
That's right.
We own it 100%. All right. So when my friend Hal approached me with this story, this thing that had happened to him, all right, I'm already inclined to say, no, don't do it as a movie, do it as a podcast. There's another reason to do it as a podcast first. A lot of that dance that we do when we create a pitch and write the script and do all this stuff, we're trying to convey to these people in the executive suites what our IP is. Yeah. What's the intellectual property? Because that really, if it's a TV show, what's the IP? What's the franchise? What's the audience going to tune in to watch every week? Because it is. TV is a repetitive experience. And so you got to know what the franchise is. What's the IP? And it's trying to make, if the people in the executive suites could do what we do on the creative side, they'd be doing it. But they're sitting over there because they don't have that imagination. So a lot of the work is to convince people who think they have imagination but don't, what this this thing from your imagination was.
There's too much of that going on in the world. I try to convince the powers that be that have no idea how to do it.
And then you have to convince them to help you develop this so that the thing that you see fully that they can't see at all, to help them see it kind of. All right. Yep. If you do it as a podcast, you've put the IP on the table where everyone can hear it and see it because it's theater of the mind. And so you've told the story, in essence, the way you wanted to tell it because there was no one getting in your way. You've told it exactly the way you want. Yep. And you've put it out to an audience. Look, it's all about podcasting. I love it. It's very democratic. Anyone can do it. Success is measured more by the nature of the content. The better the content, the more appealing the content is to a wider audience. That's just the nature of the beast. So create great content. That's the challenge. All right. So assuming that you've created great content and it's a content that an audience will want, you should be able to get some advertising dollars, hopefully enough to pay for it. Hey, if it's really great content and it develops enough of an audience, the people in those executive suites, another very important thing about them is they're risk averse. They're very, very risk averse. They don't want to spending money on something that, hey, then their boss looks at them and say, well, why did we do this? That's the problem with developing things that don't already exist. But a podcast, it exists. And so these risk-averse people can point at the podcast and go, well, look, the story was there and the audience was there.
Yeah.
Don't blame me. And so as a way to appeal to risk-averse people, by doing it as a podcast first, you've put the IP on the table where everyone can hear it. Yes. You've told the story exactly the way you want it. Hopefully, if you've made some advertising dollars, you got paid pretty well for it too. And now, hey, you still own it 100%. So in the previous model, you had approached them cap in hand, knocked on the executive's door and said, hi, Mr. Executive, I've got this idea for a movie or TV show. Can I tell you what it is? Now, everybody knows what it is. And instead of me going to sell it, they're going to come to me to buy it. They're going to say, wow, great podcast, make a great movie or TV show. I'm going to, yeah, I know. And they're going to go, well, here's a check. And I'm going to go, well, that's nice, but you got to add some zeros, move the decimal point over because you have competition, ape. You have competition.
Yes.
And what my goal is, because I'm a rebel at heart, is to flip the power dynamic away from the money and to the creatives.
Yes.
So that the creative idea now is where the power of no is. Because in every negotiation, The power isn't in yes. The power, well, it's in to say no.
Yeah.
And finally say yes. And this puts the power of no into the creative's hands. That's my part of my goal with my company. So my friend's story fits this model to a T. He worked his way through medical school in the mid-1980s as an anonymous sperm donor.
I always wondered, how much money does someone get for that? You hear a lot of people that used to do
Back then, $25 a pop, and he was doing it several times a week.
Well,
and
that's pretty good considering the minimum wage back then was like $2.
Yeah, he was making more money than all his friends working at pizza places and restaurants, working much.
Sure,
he was working a couple of minutes, and getting his money. So he worked his way as an anonymous sperm donor, worked his way through medical school. Jump forward 27 years. He's a successful radiologist. He joined 23andMe, curious about his health genes.
Yes.
Did not consider the ramifications of adding his DNA to a growing DNA database. That's what these things are.
Yeah.
And he lost his donor anonymity. Suddenly, 7 total strangers found daddy, except 6 of them had no idea their actual biological father was Hal, a sperm donor. Mm. Now, this for the 6 of them who had no idea, that they thought they knew who they were, and suddenly these are young adults. These are 26-year-old people, 27-year-old people, 25-year-old people, suddenly discovering half of them is a stranger that they have no idea of. And in some cases, profoundly a stranger. Like they didn't even know they were Ashkenazi Jew, half in this case. I mean, a profound, in some cases, shock to their system. He had been married for 20 years to a woman who'd brought a son from a previous marriage. And he had raised this son like his own, adopted him later as an adult, but he never had the experience of raising a biological child of his own. Suddenly, he's got these 7, in the end, biological children. And while these are young adults, they're adults. He's not going to be their father. He was not there to father them, but he is very open to having a fatherly relationship with them, friendly, fatherly, whatever they're open to. And he's made money. He's got considerable money, and he's quite open to making them part of his inheritance because they are his blood. And so, he's got a very, family attitude towards these donor kids.
Right.
The 7th, one of the daughters, brings a thing called genetic sexual attraction to the table. Now, she had read about this thing, genetic sexual attraction, read about it in Cosmopolitan. The Cosmopolitan told the story, in part, of a woman named Barbara Gagnon. And Barbara Gagnon had created the term genetic sexual attraction to describe what happened to her. She had given up a son for adoption when she was 16.
Okay.
She met him 25 years later when he was an adult. She had not raised him, not anywhere near him as a child, really gave him up almost at birth. Met him 25 years later. He's a young adult, 25-year-old man, and she falls head over heels in love with him.
All right.
And she was absolutely open to having sex with him. He loved her, but was not sexually attracted to her. And apparently there is research that suggests that people who are genetically related to each other, but who are not raised together, when they meet later in life, siblings, for instance, they meet someone who they feel like they've known their whole lives. This person laughs at the same things they laugh at, completes their sentences, that thinking the same thoughts. And if there's any kind of a sexual spark, they describe this incredible experience, a feeling like they've never had with and for anyone else in their entire lives. Wow. Well, this one of the daughters brings genetic sexual attraction to the table, and it's like a hand grenade being thrown into the tent.
I bet so.
And every last bit of Hal's desire to create a family of a kind.
Yeah.
The newfangled Frankenstein kind of family becomes total Frankenstein monster. And the relationship between the Dibblings, the donor-conceived siblings.
Dibblings. I like that term.
Dibblings, and I should be a little cautious with that because some donor-conceived, some people in donor-conceived community like it and some resent it. So I should probably, I apologize. I apologize.
I didn't know if that was...
Let me rephrase
your term or someone else.
No. Let me rephrase the context. Within the community, some of them really love the term Dibblings and will use it very, very happily, but not all donor conceived people like that term. So I use it with newfound advisement, under advisement.
Gotcha.
Anyway, these are people who suddenly discover they have brothers and sisters they didn't know they had.
Yeah.
And these become really intense bonds, more intense than the paternal bond, because there's a whole range of emotions. Of course, everyone wants to know where they came from, and so how do you deal with a sperm donor who doesn't want to know you?
Yeah.
This happens with great regularity. Or a sperm donor who is kind of halfway, maybe, or a sperm donor like Hal who wants to make you part of it. It's a minefield that it's a ripple effect of this incredible technology that we can access the deeper points of our DNA. We can really know where we came from. The problem is that's not actually a lot less. There are more secrets being held than we care to admit. It's somewhere about 10. I was just talking to someone who said, yes, about 10% of people don't know that they're the actual history of where they come from is not what they think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a storyteller. I've got a taste for the strange, and Hal's story blew my mind. And while I was telling Hal's story and turning it into a podcast, I found I had become the thing I always wanted to be when I grew up, which is a podcaster.
Yeah.
I loved the intimacy of the medium. It's radio. And, I guess I bring a kind of cinematic sweep to it because
I got the background for that too.
Yeah, I most of my podcasts are, I don't do weeklies. Mostly I prefer to do a story podcast from start to finish. So, limited series. And after I did Hal's story, and that's 7 episodes, it's the Donor a DNA horror story. It's an amazing story. I can promise you've never heard anything like the Donor a DNA horror story. It is quite remarkable.
So I've never heard a story kind of like that either. So I'm very interested.
In telling Hal's story, I needed to do some research into the donor-conceived community, and one of the donor-conceived community who very, very graciously agreed to tell her story, and just for background, was a woman named Donna Hall. And Donna learned at 40 that she was donor-conceived. But when Donna told me the rest of her story, I said, holy cow, you're a podcast unto yourself. She said, yeah, I know, I've been trying. And Donna has an amazing story, which I'll jump into momentarily. But the thing about an amazing story is that you have to tell it the right way. Great stories must be told the right way, because you could take a great story and just fuck it up really easily. That happens all the time. We've all met people who can kill a joke dead. Really, a simple, they don't get the timing. Well, Donna grew up in the 80s and 90s in a lower tier crime family outside of Philadelphia. The Halls weren't the Corleones from the Godfather movies, but they made national headlines just the same. Donna's mom, Phyllis, may be the worst mom ever.
Oh, that's
she spent 6 months in prison for child endangerment. Donna's stepdad, John Hall, a true criminal mastermind, was the Philadelphia Police Department's favorite snitch. He put more than 25 people behind bars based on bullshit confessions that John Hall concocted to mitigate his own considerable legal jeopardy. Among the people he put behind bars were his own stepson, Herb, who spent 18 months in prison awaiting a murder trial for a murder he did not commit.
Right.
John Hall's bullshit confessions also put a man named Walter Ogrod on death row in Pennsylvania for 24 years. Walter did not commit any murders whatsoever. Donna describes what it was like growing up in a family where every one of the adults who crossed through committed one crime or another pretty much every day. And I'm biased, but she's a remarkable storyteller. She is not an ounce of self-pity. In fact, she's funny. And this story goes some incredibly dark places. But the thing that I think redeems it, and makes it really work as so incredibly well, is that for Donna, it's true crime like you've never heard it told from the inside on a granular level. It's a story about Donna's voyage to safety and empowerment. And that's really, so it's an empowered person telling you this story of what happened to her.
Right. And where she started and how she came out.
Yeah. And so that's 8 episodes. So we did The Hall Closet. That's also out and about, the Hall Closet podcast, .com. That's a 8 episode series. And now suddenly there's another one that's out called Sage Wellness Within, which is all about Chinese medicine. In the months ahead, I've got 12 more podcasts coming out over the course of the rest of the year.
Busy.
Over the course of the summer, the next 4 podcasts I'm about to drop are 2 in June, 2 in July. They're all with journalists.
Gotcha.
After the last election, American journalism hit a wall.
Yeah, I was about
hit
to
a
say
terrible
so.
wall. And a lot of journalists suddenly were looking for a place to be honest journalists.
Yeah.
And I know a couple. And so I reached out to them. I said, you should come to podcasting, because podcasting is a place where you can be, a journalist. You can tell the truth. Yep. And there's no corporate overlord who's got to watch their back.
Right. Changing the words. Yeah.
I've got 4 different podcasts I'm doing with 4 different journalists. One is called A Secret War. It's about the secret war that America waged on Laos. The most bombed country in the history of the world is Laos. We bombed them every day for 9 years. And Manila Chan is a Lao American journalist who's been wanting to tell this story for the 25 years that she's been a journalist, and now she's finally got her chance to tell it. Tom Lowenstein, who really, in the Walter Ogrod story, the Donna Hall story about John Hall, the man who ultimately got Walter Ogrod out of prison, and Pennsylvania paid Walter Ogrod $9 million for putting him on death row for 24 years. The man who cracked the case, it was a journalist named Tom Lowenstein. And I'm doing a podcast with John Lowenstein. The first season is going to be the entire John Hall story about all the different cases. There's still a man named David Dixon who's serving a life sentence in Pennsylvania. David Dixon did not commit the murder he's accused of. And so we're trying to get this guy named David Dixon free, because nobody should be in prison based on a John Hall confession.
Absolutely not.
So there's that one. I'm doing one called Just a Photographer with a photojournalist named David Swanson, who took one of the iconic photos from 9/11 of the first responders down in the pit. He, though pictures speak 1,000 words, they can tell you what it looked like being in the heat of battle. They can't tell you what it felt like, though.
No.
And so in Just the Photographer, this photojournalist tells you what it was like to be there, taking those photos in Iraq, in Afghanistan, the LA fires. Of terrific storyteller, and podcasting is the only place he'll get a chance to tell his stories. But when people hear his stories, they'll also recognize, this made a great movie, this made a great TV show, this make a great Netflix series.
Yeah.
Yes, each and every one of them would. So my little company, Costard and Touchstone Productions, like I said, we've got a dozen already in various stages of let's get them out the door.
Yeah.
We're on a mission to make the world a better place through storytelling.
Yes, I get the stories out.
And And so really that's all I'm trying to do here.
Yeah. And that's all everybody should do, is just try to make the world a better place. For sure.
I can't think of a better calling.
Yeah. All right. Well, Alan, you've told me way more information that I didn't even know was coming. It's been wonderful to talk to you. I'll ask all my guests the same 6 questions at the end, and
Go
just
for it.
fire away. You're going to find them super easy. Alan, what is your favorite smell?
Night blooming jasmine.
Oh, jasmine is a great one. Yes.
Yeah.
We had some jasmine when I was growing up, and it was always lovely to smell.
Oh, that's intoxicating.
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of sandwich? I know it's a hard one.
Favorite kind of sandwich. Boy, nothing. There's one that I kind of make myself, and I take some grilled chicken and I make a little remoulade, and it's so simple that or okay, the other one, it's a Reuben. Okay, screw it, it's a Reuben. Yeah. It's a Reuben, really, yeah. Actually, it's a Reuben. Okay, yeah.
I love it. What is one of your favorite kind of drinks?
Well, ever since I started taking this mood stabilizer, it gives all alcohol a grapefruit skin kind of aftertaste. And so these days I really just drink water.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly happy with water. Thing. I don't even like sparkling water. I just like water.
Yeah. I don't even like sparkling water. I'm not sure why people drink it, but you can't go wrong with water. I usually like to put lemon or some lime in mine. Very good stuff.
Good coffee is good too.
Yeah, coffee is always the start. If money was not an object, what does your dream vacation look like?
Barbados. I'd go back to Barbados.
Oh yeah,
I would
go wrong there.
I would spend. Well, first of all, if the thought of I'm not a vacation-minded person. Having lost 2 decades to depression of valuable, productive time, I feel compelled. There's a poem by Andrew Marvell to his coy mistress. He says, "But at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near." Well, I'm 66, and I'm hearing its wheels, awfully loud. So. In my if I can imagine that I could take time off,
take a few days. Yeah,
I would, if there's a place on this planet where I might be able to turn my brain off. Barbados is great because not only it is a lovely island filled with lovely people. My wife is British, and so it's got a lot of Englishness to it. You can get a great cup of tea there. Wonderful place.
Now. A lot of the guests, when I ask this next question, they struggle a little bit, but you might struggle more just because of the people you've been around. Who would you consider to be the most famous person you've ever met?
I've met so many famous people.
I know.
that it's hard to compare them. Rather than say the most famous, because I don't know. I don't know how it qualifies.
What's one of your favorite famous people?
I would tell you my favorite famous person is Bob Zemeckis. Yeah. I loved working for Bob Zemeckis. He is a wonderful collaborator, and everything that I know about the collaborative process, really, I learned from Bob. In any Bob Zemeckis movie, there are 2 or 3 shots that, if you know anything about the movie making process, okay, that's impossible. How did you get that shot? Or there's some creative puzzle that the creative team was challenged by, that they solved, that is part of the story. When in the very first season, in season 3, what was supposed to be the last episode of Tales from the Crypt became just the end of season 3. It's the episode Yellow.
Yeah.
and that is Bob Z's World War One epic. Now, Bob wanted to one of the movies that he loved when he was in film school was Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory. And one of the comic books, the television comic books, was a World War One story. He wanted to take that comic book and do his homage to Paths of Glory. Now, Paths of Glory starred Kirk Douglas. And Bob wanted to get Kirk Douglas to play the lead in this episode. The problem was, as I went aboard, there had been a script written, but it frankly sucked. It had been written by a couple of feature writers who just missed any chance at subtlety and character.
Yeah.
It was a comic book, and so they wrote it like it was a comic book. And since my job was to be the final writer of all the scripts, Bob turned to me and said, I got to get Kirk. We got to get Kirk. And so I rewrote the script and we got Kirk. And so Bob was always very, very generous toward me. And when a couple seasons later, Bob decided to direct another episode, it was going to be his last episode that he would ever direct. He asked me to write the script.
Yeah.
And so when I went up with Gil, we went up to Bob's place outside of Santa Barbara. We had lunch, and after lunch was done, he pushed the plates aside. He said, all right, guys, here's all I know. I want to do a show, a completely subjective camera show. So single camera, one point of view, from the point of view of a dead guy. That's all I know. Oh yeah. And I want the dead guy to be played by Humphrey Bogart. I'm like, all right, that's a lot of challenges to get thrown down on the table after we've just cleared the lunch plates away. But of course, Bob never throws down a challenge. Well, here's the deal. So every time we passed a reflective surface, since we're seeing it from this character's point of view, we'd see Humphrey Bogart. And so what Bob wanted to do was integrate, it was going to be 18 instances, 18 we're going to see Humphrey Bogart. And if he's talking, he's going to be talking in the clip. We got to figure out a way to get in and a way to get out that is seamless. Like, wow, what a great, cool that's part of the story. Well, Bob, of course, has some ideas how to do this, but that's part of the amazing experience of working with Bob. He said, all right, guys, here's what I want to do. How are we going to do this?
Right.
Yeah, we solved the problem in any Bob Z movie. I'll give you an example. Castaway. You remember in Castaway, Tom Hanks on a deserted island. Yeah. And he's been looking at the top of the island. There's one mountain in the middle. And finally, he decides to climb the mountain.
Right.
And as he climbs the mountain,
the rope.
Yeah, the camera's on his shoulder. We can see Tom's shoulder and face in the shot the whole time. Yeah. And as he gets to the top, there's not much space on top of this thing. It's just enough space for Tom to be standing there doing a 360, turning around, Tom in the shot the whole time. Well, if you know anything about filmmaking, as he gets up there with the camera right there, it's a big piece of equipment back then. It is not a little red that you can put on your shoulder. Where's the crew?
Right.
Where's the rig to have this camera where it is? Where is everybody? How did you do this? How did you put everybody there and then make them vanish? It's an amazing shot that if you know anything about the filmmaking process, and when they were on location and Bob said, all right, guys, I'm going to get the shot from the top of the mountain. And then they all fucking climbed that mountain. And when he got up to the top, he told them what he wanted. And then he looked at them all as they stood there, not on the top, because there was only room for one person. He said, all right, guys, how are we going to do this? And they figured it out. Well, that's the experience of working with Bob Zemeckis. You are challenged creatively in the best ways possible. So everybody takes ownership of the solution. There might be an answer that doesn't solve it all the way through. It might not work, but the floor is always open to everybody for every idea. And that as a working environment is wonderful. And
I bet so.
People don't walk around being afraid of being creative. They're encouraged to be creative.
Yes.
So that's my long-winded answer to your very short question.
Yeah, Bob Zemeckis is a good answer. I mean, Castaway and Forrest Gump and the Back to the Futures. I mean,
Polar
Express. Get a better director.
I mean,
Amazing.
Even the movie he just did here, which for my money was not a terribly interesting movie, but the conceit is so wow! What an audacious conceit to shoot a whole movie from one fixed position, looking in one fixed direction.
Right.
Crazy.
Well, when you're Bob Zemeckis, you can say, "This is what I'm going to do," and they're going to say, "All right, I'll go for it."
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We'll do it.
So long as it doesn't cost beyond a certain number.
Right. And the last of the questions, what is one bucket list item you'd like to do before you move on to the next life?
That's an interesting question, Matt. Bucket list.
Yeah.
I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to give the world no. That's something else entirely. No, that can't possibly be my answer. But well, my company's goal is to make the world a better place through storytelling.
Yeah.
My personal mission is to make the world a better place just for having been in it. If I could know that I made the world a better place, nothing on my bucket list would compare to that.
Right. That is a good answer. A good answer. I love it. Alan, thanks for all the stories today. You've told quite a lot. And like I said before, I was like, man, there's way more dirt coming out of here than I was expecting. And I'm glad you're able to get I'm glad you're able to get some therapy through your storytelling to work out things.
And I also have a very good therapist too. I should point out that my mental health is yes, that very good mood stabilizer, a great therapist, and copious amounts of THC.
Right. Well,
copious.
Depending on where you live, that's pretty
California
attainable in some places, and in my state, no, we are. We are Bible belted, locked and stocked, man.
Where are you based, Matt?
I am in North Carolina.
I'm sorry.
It's not the worst southern state to be in, that's for sure, but it's still a southern state nonetheless. So you can blame my parents for me living here. we were living in California, and then we road tripped when I was young. And but that's quite all right, because the world gets smaller every day.
Indeed it does.
Yes. Thank you for being on the show. If you want to check out, you can go online. You can see all the great works that Alan has done throughout his movie career. Alan, if people are interested in checking out your podcast, How Not to Make a Movie, where can they find that out?
They can go to hownottomakeamovie.com.
All right.
They can also go to thedonorpodcast.com, the Hall Closet podcast.com, Sage Wellness Within podcast.com. All of those. And very shortly, Costard and Touchstone itself, costardandtouchstone.com should be up and running. And that will be the place where it'll connect you to all the different things and tell you what's going on. So, so shortly, costardandtouchstone.com will also be a viable place to go.
Feel free, of course, if you're listening to my podcast and you want to know where to get to Alan's, if you can't find them, just let me know and we'll get you there.
Absolutely, positively.
Associated with that as well. Alan, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Pleasure has been mine.
Thanks for listening. Seriously, I appreciate it more than you know. If you're seeing this podcast through Facebook or Instagram, drop a comment. Let us know you were here. Keep doing the work. Keep showing up. And remember, some of the best parts of life come from the things you're still doing. Be good, be kind, be nice, and everyone have a good week.